So I'm going to be looking for software engineering roles pretty soon. It's in the holiday season, so I don't think that that's going to go very quickly. But this past year has been very intentional about trying to time the stuff that I'm developing with the kind of cultural atmosphere around it, particularly as it relates to artificial intelligence and the tooling that we have around it. Because now you can take some very abstract thoughts and plug them into ChatGPT, and it can produce charts, it can produce images, it can produce text to support whatever you're trying to describe. So as I'm building these websites that I have, splashy.com, factshift.com, and lore.land, I want to be very mindful of how quickly that space is evolving. As I'm designing these features, I want to keep in mind that the end users of these products might already think that the features that I design are generic. And that's just going to be a natural part of how people interact with technology now. Everything that they have seen used in technology is kind of put into a black box of functionality. So if you have a website or any kind of product or feature that you have in mind, keep in mind as well that it's not being viewed as if all of the effort that goes into making that possible is justifiable. It's being viewed from a lens of, I expect to be able to do this with the interface that I see. So the products that I designed and developed currently, as like where they are now, is not where they're going to be. Because of the types of software engineering roles that I'm looking for, I wanted to leave them in a spot where I could talk about where I would go with it, who I would hire, when I would hire them, the kinds of things that I would look for in the people that I would hire, etc. And I'm thinking about this across the board, from the intern developers that I have and want to make sure that I'm feeding the culture with, making sure that they develop themselves in their career while also contributing to the overall atmosphere of contribution and development and exploration of the companies that I have, as well as the designers. Who else? There are a lot of other kind of abstract roles that go into all of these teams. But just for example, the roles that I would primarily hire for at the beginning are somebody to engage with not only the code but also the culture, and then someone to do the same thing for the design, and gradually flesh out these roles as the primary stakeholder for these properties, so on and so forth. So what do we have? We have splashy.com, which is just my main personal site. If you visit it, then you can see the parser for the language that I've been developing, called Swoop. And you can see the output here. You can copy all of this text. I'm just going to paste it. So you can see that that's JSON. And one of the ideas that I had, I'm not sure if this works. Not now. Was to use it for factshift.com. Not sure if this works. Nope. So that was the previous idea, where you copy just this plain text. This is an object that has identities and tokens. And theoretically, you'd be able to paste it into factshift.com. I've since changed the way that that mechanism works for factshift.com, so I can't actually demonstrate that. I can demonstrate it with the data that's on the current site. So it is kind of boring to just have that there. But the idea is that you can take some of the text from the website. What am I saying? This video is more of a concept video, to be honest. I'm probably gonna go back through and re-record this, but I just wanted to get some of the main thoughts out. So basically, main site, the only feature that you see here is the parser that plugs into the factshift.com concept because the parser is used in a few different places. This is a test, so you can see this is a test. Has roughly the same structure as what you see here. This is a test is the phrase, and then the nominal tokens here. And there are a few things that you can do with this. For example, you can filter out all the nominal nodes. And that's something you might want to do if just trying to keep the interface a little bit cleaner. And lore.land is supposed to tie into the concept of fleshing out the entire ecosystem. You can see here that this can be installed. Lore.land. The only feature here is a button. It shows if it's focused or active. And I think it would be interesting to update this button on lore.land every day. And then if I have different elements that I want to display under the main menu, then I could bring this concept over to factshift.com and kind of keep this concept fresh as I continue developing this idea. The main thing to note about these repositories that is for, or I guess might stand out to developers, for one, this button is very meticulously designed, I should say. The code base behind it is. I kind of wish GitHub had lines of code, but I understand why that wouldn't necessarily be realistic. But you can see that there are Cypress tests. This has storybook components as well. GraphQL. Schema.graphql. So basically, yeah, there's a front end and a back end component to this codebase ecosystem. It's a React application. Made it to be a boilerplate using TypeScript, Redux for state management. So this is kind of a solid representation of my current opinion about code. Like if I wanted to make it easier to start a company, this is the general approach that I would take. And it has this readme.swoop file instead of a readme.md file because I want to, what am I saying? Yeah, basically, if you have artificial intelligence, then I can just copy all of this text into that chat GPT or whatever and ask it to summarize the main things about this repository that should stand out to me. And that's very different than the code for factshift.com currently, which is pretty ugly, I would say. I would say it's ugly. A lot of the stuff that you see here is not organized into any meaningfully logical structure. There are a lot of inconsistencies. For example, this file is called links, and some of the variables are called links, but the folder is called edges, and some of the variables are called edges. So if I were to try to refer to those across the code base or tell somebody what they should update, it wouldn't be easy for me to clearly communicate what needs to change. What else? It's not clear which things happen at which times. I think you can see that if I refresh the page on factshift.com or if I go somewhere new. I'm not sure if you saw that. There's this flash where you can see that the interface isn't. Might be more obvious if I have a whole bunch of nodes. Yeah, you saw that flash of the interface not being properly sized. Stuff like that. And it would be challenging with the current code base to figure out where that's happening and why. So, one of the things that I would want to do is go through all of the things that I'm doing here and just clean them up. Um, there are a few different goals that you might have when doing something like this. And for the most part, making this code base something that both AI tooling and junior developers can interact with are the primary goals. And once those goals are reached, we can iterate and add as many features as we want. This front end code base has been designed to make it easier to keep track of the features that we're designing. So if we were on a team, you'd be able to communicate, go to this specific URL to see this UI component. You can run these tests to make sure that you're interacting with this site the way that you want to. So ultimately, this code base is where we want to end up. We're not going to start there though, because the primary goal at the beginning was just to get a concept out, to be able to say this is a tool that you can use to describe very abstract thoughts. And this is the way that it connects to a broader ecosystem, with Loreland having the lore button as an installable app, and the swoop parser being built into factshift.com, etc. So that concept has been, well, you can see it. I've demonstrated some of the features. There are a whole bunch more. The features are not documented. There is a lot of inconsistency with the interface. The code base is not documented. So just making this something tangible, I think, is the next step. And I like the idea of making videos about why I'm doing certain things. But I know that trying to process my thoughts at the same time that I'm talking about my thoughts is challenging for me. That's why I made factshift.com. So, how am I going to make videos about this? Well, this video is about 13 minutes long. And I don't think that I'm going to want to keep a lot of this content, but I'm going to post it. More on that later.